In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up Google Ads Performance Max campaigns the right way. Since Performance Max was released, there's been a lot of excitement about it in the Google Ads community, and understandably so. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to set it up quickly and easily. Then I'm going to talk about the pros and cons and whether you actually want to use Performance Max or not. So let's start by covering what exactly Performance Max is. It's a new campaign type, and I've got Google's announcement article up about it because I wanted to be able to show you this graphic. So I think this is quite interesting. And basically the idea behind Performance Max is it's one campaign type that allows you to simultaneously advertise across lots of different networks, from YouTube, display, search, Gmail, etc. All sorts of different places across Google. And the idea behind Performance Max is that you're going to give Google a lot of information about your business, and then you're basically just going to say to Google, you go ahead and work it out.
Let them work it out. Let them work it out.
Work out the best places to advertise, the best people to advertise to, the best combinations, and get me the results that I'm looking for. That's what Performance Max is at the end of the day, and you can see why that's been very attractive to a lot of Google advertisers. So let's go ahead and go through the setup process.
Here we go.
So I'm in a Google Ads account. You want to start by clicking on the new campaign and then new campaign button, and then we need to select our campaign objective. Now you can't use Performance Max as a campaign type for all campaign objectives, but you can for both sales and leads, which is the most common Google Ad campaign objectives. I'm going to go ahead and use leads for the purposes of this video. Now this section is very, very important, your conversion goals. Whatever you enter in down here is going to be what Google will optimize for. So if, for example, we didn't want Google to optimize for calls from ads, then we would need to make sure that we go ahead and delete that out. That would be very important. So just make sure that whatever you've got in here as your conversion goals is what you actually want, what you want Google to go out and get you. And also it's a good idea to have values associated with these conversion goals. Because one of the optimizations that we can use with Performance Max campaigns, that I'll talk about in a minute, is to get Google to optimize for conversion value. In other words, go after the conversions that are worth more to your business. Okay, very, very important. So make sure you've got this set up. We've got errors here, and this isn't set up properly because this is now a demonstration ad account, but hopefully you already know how to do this. If not, check things out on YouTube. You can work out how to set up your conversion goals and all that sort of stuff. I will be publishing videos on that soon, so make sure you subscribe for that if you haven't already. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue for demonstration purposes. And then of course we get to our campaign type. And as this video is all about Performance Max, that's what we're going to go ahead and select. Interesting that they've got it in as second at the moment behind search in terms of the order. Leads Performance Max 3, sure. We've created other examples in the past, so let's go with that. That's absolutely fine. And then we get into budget and bidding. Now, in terms of budget, I recommend that with all Google Ad campaigns, you start with something that's very affordable for you, and then you scale from there once you know that you can get results. So what that is for your business is going to be completely depend, right? For some businesses, that's thousands every day. For some, it's a tiny fraction of that. We might start with something like £20 a day, something like that as a test case. Then we get into the bidding section. Now, I've already talked about this a second ago, but you can either optimize for conversion, so get me as many conversions as possible, or we can optimize for conversion value. Now, if you have conversions on your website that differ in value significantly, let's say, for example, you had people that can opt in and inquire about your service, like a full lead, and you also have like an email opt-in, someone who just signs up for a free report, for example. Well, those two conversions have very different values, and you want Google to optimize more for the people that are going to become leads, in which case optimizing for conversion value makes a lot more sense. If you've just got the one conversion or they're all worth the same to you, you can go with conversions. But I think most businesses, conversion value is going to be the better option. You can also choose to set a target return on ad spend if you want. We typically wouldn't do this if it's a new campaign, new ad account, because we probably don't know what we're likely to get in terms of a ROAS number, but you can if you want to go ahead and add that in. I'm just going to go ahead and click next and carry on. Now we get into location targeting. Now I've recorded a whole video about location targeting specifically. A link will be in the video description below, so go ahead and check that out if you want more information on what to do as the best option here. I'm just going to go ahead and select United Kingdom for now. Languages we will leave as English. Final URL expansion, I'm definitely going to talk about, because that's a very, very interesting setting. But I'm also just going to quickly click into more settings and cover some other stuff. So we can set an ad schedule if you want. If you only want your ads to run certain times of the day, like just during working hours or only during weekends, depending on what you sell, it's absolutely fine. We can set a start and end date as well. But this up here, final URL expansion, is a very, very interesting feature. Now, what this is, the default is to have this turned on, and what this allows Google to do is send people to other pages on your website. Now, we're still going to give them a page as a default, but with this setting turned on, Google could test all sorts of other different pages on your website. Send people to your product page as opposed to your home page, or vice versa. Send them to your case studies page or your testimonial page instead of a specific product page, as an example. This is a really interesting option. Now, if you don't want to do this at all, you can turn it off, only send people to the traffic, to the URLs that you provided. You can see that for better conversions, Google recommends keeping it on, and so do I. I recommend keeping it on. The whole point of Performance Max is to basically say, Google, go out and find me the best options. If that means sending people to different pages on my website that I wouldn't have thought to test, great, go ahead and test that for me. Now, you can have a little bit of a halfway house where you can just exclude certain URLs. So let's say you're happy for Google to send people to lots of different pages to work that out, but not these few, because that doesn't really make any sense. Well, you can go ahead and pop those in there and kind of maybe get the best of both worlds, but that's obviously up to you. Okay, let's go ahead and click next. Then we get into the asset group. Now, asset groups are a different thing to other campaign types, obviously, and what I want you to do with an asset group is think about it as like an ad unit. So if you think about a responsive search ad as an ad unit on the search network, so it's not just one ad, is it? It's an ad unit because you have lots of different headlines and descriptions and different things can be presented to different people. An asset group is that, but just, beefed up to some extent. So because an asset group is an ad unit, but it's an ad unit that needs to be capable of being displayed across all those different networks, YouTube, search, Gmail, etc. There's lots of information that we can add into here, lots of details that we can give to Google. As we're going through this process, we can see on the right-hand side the previews, and that's really helpful. So we can see, for example, what's our ad going to look like in YouTube? What's it going to look like in Gmail? What's it going to look like in search and display and all that sort of stuff, okay? So the first thing to do is add in our final URL. So I'm just going to pop in my website to make sure we don't have errors as we go through this process. We can see it says URL expansion is on. So we're saying to Google, this is where I want you to send people, but because we've got URL expansion on, if you think there are better places to send people, go ahead and test away. Then as we scroll down, we get into the add creative section. So first thing is we can add up to 20 different images.
20.
And if we hover over, you can see that Google recommends that we upload images in different sizes, different formats, because there's going to be lots of different types of ads across all these different networks shown, and some of those are going to be different formats. They're going to want images that are square or landscape or portrait. So if you can go ahead and add in images that are landscape, that are square, that are portrait, that's ideal. That's exactly what we want to go ahead and do here. You can add up to 20, and I'd recommend that you do so. The whole point of this is to give Google as much sort of ammo as possible to test lots of different stuff. So go ahead and put those in. As many as you can. In terms of what images to use, for some businesses it can be quite obvious. So if you're a product-based business, then you're going to want to put in images of your products. If you're a service-based business, perhaps you've got images from your portfolio or images that show your company or the people that work for you, or the service being actually done, all sorts of different things. I'm going to create a separate video specifically on images in Google Ads. So if you're interested, make sure you subscribe and keep an eye out for that. Then we get into logos. And again, if I hover over, a similar thing where we can add in square logos or landscape logos as recommended sizes, and that's great to have different options for the same reason as with the images, right? Different logos are going to be displayed in different locations. You can add up to 5. You don't need 20, of course. How many would you need with a logo? But with 5, you could have a black and white version, for example. You could have, maybe you've got an inverted colors version, and you can obviously have different sizes as well. So adding in logos there. Then we get into videos. Now, if you've got videos created, so you've got product demonstration videos, or maybe drone footage over, the roof that you just cleaned, or, whatever it happens to be, client testimonial videos, all the sort of typical marketing videos that you would be familiar with. If you've got that sort of stuff, then absolutely go ahead and put that in here. If you don't, that's also fine, because Google will automatically create videos for you. Now, how are they going to do that? They're going to take things like your images and your logos, some of the copy from your website, maybe some of the stuff from your headlines, and they're going to sort of mash it together and create sort of animated slideshow type short little videos, which is the sort of thing that we see all the time. They look pretty good and they can convert well. So if you can add in, go ahead and add, but don't feel like you have to. Okay, then we get into the headlines section. So because these ads are going to be displayed in lots of different locations. There's different types of headlines. So we've got our sort of traditional search headlines, 30 characters, sort of thing you're familiar with. We can add up to 5 options. Definitely go ahead and add those in. We've also got long headline options up to 90 characters. And again, you can add 5 options. So I've got a whole video about headlines. Link will be included in the video description below. You can check that out. Shows you exactly what to include, all that sort of stuff. Would recommend you go through. Make sure you add in your long headlines and your standard headlines. Then we get into descriptions. So again, there's 2 different types. You can add in 1 short description, which is 60 characters long, and then up to 4 other longer descriptions. And of course, the same sort of stuff applies to headlines, where you want to be benefit rich and talk about the plus points of your product and service and all that sort of stuff that I cover on that video that I mentioned, linked to in the video description below. Then we've got business name. Obviously, that's fairly self-explanatory. And then we get into call to action. Now we can see that the default here is automated. The call to action is what you'd expect, right? It's kind of like it's going to look different in different places, but if you think about more of a social media type ad, like a Facebook ad where you've got a button where people can click on apply now, sign up, and they can actually go through. Now, using automated is a good idea. Firstly, because it allows Google to test all the options and come up with the best one for you. But secondly, because if you've got, as we have here, if I scroll up, your URL expansion turned on, then we want to make sure that Google uses the most appropriate call to action for that page. If Google's deciding to send people through to a page where people can sign up for, a free consultation on a website, then they want you to sign up. But if Google's sending people to a page like a case studies page or the homepage on a website instead, then perhaps learn more is a lot more appropriate. So automated is usually the way to go here. Okay, so go ahead and add in all those details. I've got videos on the individual components of this, so go ahead and add those in. And then we need to move on to audience signal. This is a really important component of a Performance Max campaign. It's actually optional, but I'd certainly recommend you go ahead and add it in. Now, as we discussed with Performance Max campaigns, they are great in terms of the amount of reach and the amount of options that they have. But that does mean that initially Google might be a bit confused over who exactly to put your ads in front of. And with an audience signal, you can say to Google, this type of person. Here's some signal, some examples, some direction in terms of who to target, and it can help you save quite a lot of budget, especially at the beginning with a Performance Max campaign where Google's just doing lots of testing and trying to work out who is the best people to advertise to. So very, very important. So if we go ahead and click on add an audience signal, and I'm going to go ahead and add a new audience. There's previous examples that I've added in before, but we can ignore those. So if we call this example audience signal, and then we've got a number of different options. So firstly, we've got custom segment. If I go ahead and click in here and then go on create new segment. So example custom segment. Okay, and then we can add in some terms that are closely related to the products and services that we sell, that if people have been searching for these, hopefully recently, not necessarily all the time, then they are the sort of people that we want to target. So for example, let's say we are advertising a window cleaning business. We offer window cleaning services. Well, we could go in here and we could add in, as an example, window cleaning as a search term. Click enter, and then this is a signal to Google. Anyone that's been searching for window cleaning, that's the sort of person we want to advertise to. And we can add in a few different options. I think don't go overboard here. 2 or 3 options is great. You don't want to use too many. This is an indication and a signal, and you want to be quite specific to what it is that you offer. So window cleaning is a great example. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. Then we get into the Your Data section. So this is basically warm audiences, people that have already interacted with your business before. And if I click in here, for example, we can add in all visitors or website visitors. And that's great. You definitely want to add that in. Also, if you've got any audiences uploaded to Google Ad account, like an email list or previous customers, definitely go ahead and add those in as well. The more info you could put in here, the better for Google, because of course the people that have visited our website or become a customer of ours, those are fantastic people to use as a source audience for this audience signal, to be like, I want you to advertise to people just like them. Okay, so let's we'll add that in for now. Then we get into interest and detailed demographics. Now this is different to custom segments in that in this section, we're talking about the type of people we want to advertise to as opposed to their activity. Here, it's like someone who has searched for window cleaning, whereas down here, we want people that have that are in specific groupings basically that are in certain categories that perhaps have certain life events going on. So for example, with something like window cleaning, we would perhaps want to just focus on people that are homeowners, right? People who actually own homes are likely to be our best option when it comes to people interested in window cleaning. Renters and stuff, less likely to be interested in that sort of thing. Okay, so we could add in homeowners. Again, we could add in 1, 2, maybe a couple of different options. Don't go mad here, but that can really help. Then we get into demographics. Now you can see that all demographics are recommended, but if I click in here, we can be more specific around just female or male, specific age ranges. Now, I like to give Google a lot of flexibility with Performance Max campaigns. That's kind of the point here, is that we're saying, you go and work it out, Google, here's all the data. But if you are 99% female, yes, you could go ahead and just do female, if you're, or vice versa. If you're even, say, 80-20, one way or the other, I would go with both. And if your target core market is, say, 25 to 45, we wouldn't just go with 25 to 45. We would have it be broader, give Google more flexibility is better. Then when it comes to additional demographics, is an interesting point to highlight. There's a couple of extra options. Do you want to target parents or not? For some businesses, that really matters. Like if you offer baby-related stuff. For others, it doesn't matter at all. And then the same with household income, right? So there are various options that you can choose to specifically target. And this is going to depend again on your business. Are you offering really luxury products? Maybe yes, in which case you want to go with top earners, maybe not. If it's not something that's really important to your business, I'd recommend keeping things nice and broad. And you see that if we, for example, do add in anything, we get this warning below, include all demographics to increase leads. So yeah, for the most part, that's what you want to do. So we're going to go ahead and click save. And that is now our audience signal, all nice and set up. We're going to go ahead and click next. And that brings us into the ad extension part. Now, obviously, because our campaigns could run on the search network as well as lots of other places, we need to be able to add in extensions like we would with the search campaign, right? So we've got site link extensions, we can add in call out extensions, all sorts of different options. I'd strongly recommend you add in all the ones that are relevant to your business. I've got separate videos on site link extensions and call out extensions, so there'll be links to those in the video description below if you want to check those out for more info. I will be creating other videos about some of these other extensions, so if you're interested in checking those out, make sure you're subscribed. I'm not going to add these in for now, but you certainly want to go ahead and do that. And then we click next and we get through to the summary. Now I've got errors because I haven't actually added in things like images and headlines and stuff like that, and that's fine. That was not the purpose of this video to go through all those things. That's covered elsewhere. I wanted to show you exactly how to set these up, Performance Max campaigns. But when you don't have the errors, you can come down, you can go ahead, publish that, and it starts running. Now, I think it's worth quickly talking about the pros and cons of Performance Max campaigns and whether you don't want to use them. So we'll do that now. So the pros of Performance Max campaigns are pretty significant. Firstly, it's going to give you massive potential reach. And if you've got a campaign that performs well and you want to be able to scale it up, Performance Max campaigns work really, really well for that. If you've got a search campaign that's delivered great results, for example, and you want to find an easy way to try and take that out to new markets, Performance Max works really well. It's also very quick and easy to set up, right? It would take you so much longer to set up individual campaign types for all the different networks. That's so much more work involved, and less work, is typically a good thing, be able to accomplish your goals faster. It's also great for beginners in that a lot of this process is automated. So you're not going to run into some of the real issues, the big mistakes that you may otherwise run into if you're not very experienced. So it takes that off the table. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of advertisers have turned to Performance Max. A lot of advertisers are seeing great results with Performance Max. And we also have to think about that Performance Max is still Google's shiny new toy when it comes to advertising. Whenever it comes to new features and new tools, there are lots of people within the company that are heavily invested in it working and working well. So what we often see is that the newest features sort of get a bit priority. We don't get confirmation on this sort of stuff, but we suspect it, and they often deliver better results than perhaps they should or maybe will over the long run, because they've got this sort of initial boost. And we're still within that window. It's still Google's shiny new toy, so maybe a great idea to test. Now, there are cons associated with Performance Max as well, though, right? So firstly, you have less control. And if you really care about how your brand is presented to your target audience, Performance Max might throw up some issues, because with all that testing, with all those images, all that text variation, sometimes Google's going to put together ads that don't really make sense. And obviously those people aren't going to go ahead and convert. Google will quickly work that out, and they will then go with ad options that do make sense, because they'll see that in the data and the actions people take. But there are going to be people that see ads, see your brand represented in a way that is just a little bit odd. Okay, so that's something to certainly be aware of. Also, because you can't see as much specific data, you don't have the same insights with Performance Max campaigns, it's more difficult for you to take optimization actions and improve results over the long run. And that can be really significant with Google Ads, right? Often we say that campaigns have been running for 6 months or 9 months or 12 months perform a lot better than brand new campaigns, because we've been able to work out each individual element, how it performs, what we need to delete, what doesn't work as well. With Performance Max, it's much more of an automated process. You don't get the same level of specificity, and you're kind of just trusting Google, and you're not able to make those incremental improvements. So for advanced Google advertisers, often they're still seeing better results going with more control, more specific campaign types like search, for example, than they are with just trusting it to Google, because they're able to make those optimizations and improvements. Another potential con that we do see with Google with Performance Max campaigns is that Google will sometimes favor lower value conversions, even if you're optimizing for conversion value. We talked about it previously, but let's take the example of a website where someone can book a free consultation. That's an inquiry into a service, really high value. And there's also a conversion on there that is of people with an email opt-in, just opting in for your newsletter or trying to get a free report, for example. Now, we want the free consultations more than we want the email opt-ins, but sometimes we'll just see with a Performance Max campaign, Google getting you tons of those email opt-ins, even if you've got conversion value, and that's not great. Now, you can manually override that, because you can remove the email opt-in as a conversion goal from your Performance Max campaign. And maybe you can do that and then it will work just fine. But that's something that can happen that you need to be aware of if you're going to use Performance Max campaigns. So should you use Performance Max campaigns? Should you give it a go? I think for just about all Google advertisers, it makes sense to at least test Performance Max campaigns, even advanced Google advertisers. Now, you may well find that if you're a beginner, even an intermediate Google advertiser, you get better results with Performance Max than with other campaign types, in which case, great, you can carry on using it. Advanced advertisers may not see that as much, but it's certainly worth a test. What we have found is that the ad accounts with more data, more conversions, they produce better results when you use Performance Max. And that makes sense, right? Because Google's got so much to test. If there's more conversions in your ad account, Google's got a better indication of who to advertise to, when to advertise, all those various data points, and that can help you get better results. So even if you maybe tested Performance Max at the beginning, but you've been running campaigns, you've got more data, you might want to retest. Or if you're at the start and you don't see great results with Performance Max, you go and use other campaigns. Maybe you want to test again in 6 months, 12 months, when you've got more data in your ad account. That seems to be a really important point. If you do decide to go ahead with Performance Max campaigns, just be aware that is that initial testing phase that you don't see as much with, say, a search campaign. So don't expect to see fantastic results initially, but once it's up and running and got going, often we start to see conversions coming in at a low cost and at large volumes, which is obviously what we all want. Now, before you go, something I want to quickly mention, and that's my company's Google Ads Done For You services. So we can create, manage, and optimize your Google Ad campaigns, whether you want Performance Max campaigns or another campaign type, or you just want us to decide for you. We can do that. We can take this work off your hands and hopefully get you much better results as well. So if you're interested, you can click on a link in the video description below, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. Now, whether you're going to use Performance Max campaigns or not, to get the best possible results with Google Ads, you need to know how to write fantastic headlines. I show you exactly how to do that in this video here. I provide a ton of examples and best practices. It's well worth going through.